Kyle Bailey with Front Burner Marketing. I'm here today to help you show you how roofers can optimize your Google business profile. Okay. I'm going to show you 10 quick tips. We're going to be referencing WhiteSpark's top ranking factors for 2026. And so here we are. We're going to go ahead and get started now. So right here in the Google business profile, you can see where this little set of icons shows up. Now, edit profiles where you go in, you can change your contact information. And primarily, what I want to talk about first is the number one ranking factor for your roofing business is your primary category. Okay. So when you list your category, you've got to make sure it's the right one, and you should review your Google business profile at least once a week to make sure that Google has not gone in and automatically changed it. I decided to shoot this video because I went in to audit my customer's profile, and I noticed that some of the services had changed. Google automatically will update your service based on, theoretically, it's supposed to be based on customer feedback and things like that. But I've seen them add things that nobody in their right mind would have added. So for instance, this customer right here, they're a roofing business, and the customer, one of the businesses that they have, one of the services that they had added was drywall patching. And so this customer doesn't do that. They don't get referred for that. They don't get reviewed for it. There's no way that was on there, but that's a good reason you want to get in there and just edit it once a week. Just go through and thumb through everything and make sure that everything is correct. So, but back to the ranking factors, your primary category is the number one ranking factor. And this is where I see customers make mistakes all the time. A roofer will be in there as a general contractor. A remodeler will be in there as a handyman. I've seen lots of things. So you got to make sure that that is correct and it stays correct. Okay. Now, you see right here, read reviews, and you can see this has a red dot on it. What that means is that you need to go in and answer some of these reviews. You want to answer every single review. Even if it's bad, go ahead and answer it. Perhaps precisely because it's bad. You want to go in there. I've talked in some of my other videos about when you have a bad review, your response to that is not to that customer. It's to the future customers who are going to read that. You want to respond in a very calm, kind, balanced manner. And particularly if it's unfair, you're tempted to go in there and kind of roast them. You don't want to do that, because the future customer will read that and say, oh man, if something goes sideways, this guy's going to get really mad at me. And so don't do that, but just go in there, respond to every review. Don't try to keyword stuff your review response, because it doesn't help. The one way it will help is if you mention your service that you did. You might say, Mrs. So-and-so might have said, we loved having you re-roof our home. And you might say, hey, Mrs. Jones, we really loved serving you. And we really liked the garage door that we helped you pick out because the other one got damaged by the hail. That's not going to do any good for you in ranking, but what it will do is it will show folks, if you're a roofer, especially if you're a roofer in Texas, Austin or Dallas particularly, it's the hail damage capital of the world. So you're going to have a lot of hail damage claims there. And what you want to gently show people is that you're not just replacing roofs, you're also helping them with ancillary damage around the property. And so that's a great way to indirectly say, hey, look here, we do this other stuff too. Really, really helpful. Now, photos. One of the things that Google is really pushing here lately, this is breaking news. Google is suggesting and pushing that you put short form video. So great uses of this are little selfies. Tell a quick story about how you replaced this roof or repaired it. Selfies of you on the roof are really cool because that's a perspective most homeowners don't get. Anything that tells a story, selfie in front of a neighborhood that you serve is really powerful, because especially if it's a desirable neighborhood that you really want, you want to get more exposure in there. Side tip, that's a great thing to put on Instagram and Facebook as well. That'll get good penetration for you there. But adding photos regularly. Don't update your Google business profile more than twice a week, because that's not going to help you. Now in post, there's a whole other strategy for that. But basically you want to post a couple times a week. You can use that as your photo ad as well. Now, what I really want to talk about for a minute before we look at the ranking factors is the services. Now, services is probably the second most overlooked area for roofers because you don't put all your services in there. And a lot of roofers don't know that within the services, if they'll let you do it, a lot of times you can go in and you can put a description in that service, and that has keyword value. Now, I want to be very clear. None of this is a silver bullet. There's not one of these things that, Google's going to let you go in and change this one thing and it magically puts you on top. But when you have your Google business profile fully filled out, then it shows Google that you're serious. You want it to show as active. That's why you want to update it a couple of times a week. But that's really the threshold of how much it's going to help you. Now, having said all this, now you want to look at AI. And this is where kind of the unseen benefits are showing up, because AI is going to analyze your reviews. It's going to read your services, then balance those against what's on your website, and it'll even look at some of your socials. So that you've got a much more holistic approach that you have to take nowadays. Used to be you could just have a website, then you needed your Google business profile. Now you've got to have your website, Google business profile, your socials, and then service sites like Angie's List, Thumbtack. Get you some reviews out there on those. Houzz is another good one. Okay. So for the Google business profile, that's what we're looking at for the moment. Let's very quickly look at the top 5 or 6 ranking factors on Whitespark. Now, the Whitespark ranking factor report is comprehensive and it'll really help you out, but you can get overwhelmed. There's a lot of data. What I would focus on is make sure you've got these top 7 or 8 fully filled out, full functioning on every asset that you have. Make sure that all of this is done, then start digging deeper, because you don't want to get paralysis by analysis. So number 1 is a primary GBP category. So if you are a roofer, it'd be roofer or roofing company. Then proximity of address to the point of search, meaning if your business address is in one particular, we'll take Dallas. If it's in 75028, if you're in that zip code, that's in Flower Mound, you've got about a 5-mile radius around Flower Mound that you're going to be relevant. Past that, it really drops off, and only if your competition is very, very weak are you going to show up beyond that in any kind of big way. Now, I've seen it where it gets up to 10-mile radius, but at some point that radius is going to stop and it drops off of a cliff. You can use different rank trackers. There's lots of them out there. Local Falcon's got a good one. I think Whitespark has one as well. So there's different. Local Dominator, that's one I really like. You can use any of these services, sign up for $40 or $50 a month, and you can see what your rankings are. Any agency worth their salt that'll come with it. They'll be able to show you month to month what your rankings are. But you will see a big drop off after whatever the radius limit is at that point. The more competition, the smaller that radius gets. All right, keywords in GBP business title. Now that's one, it works, but you've got to be very careful how you do it, and you can still get suspended. But it does work. So if you're a roofing company, change your name from Acme Roofing to Acme Roofing Company. Okay, so you want to change that on a DBA. You want to change it on signage, change it on your letterhead and your sign on your building. It's expensive, but you can do this with plastic signs and just have a nice looking plastic sign by your door or something like that. And that'll work, because you want to take a picture of it and then have it put on your GBP. But you want to go ahead and change your DBA. Try to get one of your utility bills changed to that name after you do the DBA, because if Google does suspend your listing, you want to be able to appeal it on solid ground. So it's better to have all that and not need it than to need it and not have it. Remember, you prepare in good times, you prepare for bad times, and bad times, you prepare for good times. And this is a case where you want to do some prep before you make the change, so you can quickly show Google, hey, we're legit, we're solid, instead of having to take 2 or 3 weeks to get all that stuff together after your business listing is suspended. You don't want that. All right. So again, with keywords and GBP title, I just want to really emphasize, you don't want to just go do this willy-nilly, because that will almost certainly get you suspended. Physical address in the city of search. This is very similar to the proximity. So if you're in Dallas, you need to be in Dallas. If you want Flower Mound, you need to be in Flower Mound. And we see through some research, I'll shoot another video on this, we see a very sharp drop in the non-city, even though it's within the 5-mile radius. So Flower Mound, for instance, we have a customer there, and Flower Mound and Highland Village are really indistinguishable in that area. But when you say Flower Mound roofer, then we had very good rankings. And early on, what we saw is once we said Highland Village, the ranking dropped off. Now we've been working on it for a year and a half. So now we have really solid rankings all the way around. But at first, Google's not going to give you that relevance. You have to work a lot harder for the non-city, even though, again, it's within that 5-mile radius. So the address, whatever your address is, you're going to have higher ranking there. Now, I know a lot of you deal with the problem that you're on the outskirts. And if you're on the outskirts and you want to compete more in a suburban area that has higher population, you've got to get another location there. I'll talk another time about some techniques you can use to do that, but that's your only option. You just don't have any other options on that. All right, business open at the time of search. Now, I've got a video out there that I published on this. We ran a live test on this at 5 o'clock. We started the video about 5 minutes till 5, showed the rankings for a search. And then as soon as it turned 5 at 5:01, we ran it again, and half the ones at least that were listed as open that changed to closed, they dropped off that list. So Google has a very high bias, very sharp bias towards businesses that are open. They've done a lot of work to do that. So now, how can you deal with that? Well, in roofing, one of the aspects that most roofers will offer is they offer emergency tarping services. So if a homeowner had a storm, limb goes through the roof, rain's leaking in the home, then they could call a roofer and they say, hey, we'll come out and we'll emergency tarp. Well, what that gives you is the ability to say that you offer services 24/7. The way you want to do that is you want to have the 24/7 on your website. Make sure that's propagated. Then do what we call a citation run. So you run a list of citations that you can get very quickly, and then have all those listing 24/7 services. Then you can do a press release behind that. Hey, Bob's Roofing is excited to announce that we're offering 24/7 services. Here's what we offer for 24/7, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Now what you've got is a bunch of lights that you can deploy pretty quickly at a reasonable cost. You can get all these pointers and signals out there that say, hey, we are 24/7. And then when Google goes to check you, then your story backs up. But it allows you to be relevant and showing is open and available for more hours than your competitor down the road who closes at 5. All right, so business open at the time of search. High numerical Google ratings, okay? So a lot of people think that they can go out there and just buy a bunch of reviews and that will get them to the top because they'll have a higher quantity of reviews. There is some truth to that. There is fake reviews do work. I'm not suggesting you do it. I highly recommend that you don't, because Google is burning a lot of money to learn how to finally figure out how to get rid of these fake reviews. And when it happens, it's going to be just like the big Penguin and Panda updates back in the 2012 and 13, when all these major websites lost position. And man, if they hit you, you're going to get hit hard. And you don't want to lose everything. It's not worth it. Better just go out there and do good work. Ask for reviews. You'll get reviews. What they're saying here is it's not a high number of reviews. It's the rating. So you want to be at 4.5 or above. That's in general where you want to be. And if you are below that on average, you just need to work hard to do good work. Number one, that's going to do better than anything else will to help you. That's number one. But then right behind that, you want to consistently and systematically ask for reviews. Okay. I've got a video out there about that, about some process things you can do to improve your ability and the rate at which you get reviews. Now, address showing on GBP, not service area business. This is a big one that a lot of people will tell you that they can overcome, but it's just not worth the extra work that you have to put in. Get an address on the GBP. Now, you might say, Kyle, I don't have an address where I want to be. That again goes, you got to get one. No matter what you do, you got to get it. There's some things you don't want to do Don't do PO box. Don't do certain co-working spaces. Don't get mailboxes at UPS stores, places like that. Don't do that because you're going to put a lot of work in and it's just not going to work, or it might get suspended. But you need an address in the area that you want to do work. All right? Really important. I'll mention one more: additional GBP categories. This is another low-hanging fruit opportunity that's really easy to do. It's completely free, and it will widen the scope of what you get returned on for a GBP. So additional GBP categories means if you're a remodeler, then your secondary category, I think you can have up to 9. And you've got kitchen remodeling, bathroom remodeling, walk-in showers. You might have that as a category. You might want to list countertop contractor, because most kitchen remodelers do countertop installation as well. But what you're wanting to do is add every category that you can. Categories are different than services. Okay? Categories are different than services. They're not the same. But add in all those categories. And what you can do is tap add a new category and then begin to type, and Google will populate below that what the category is that you can add. If it doesn't pop up, then you don't have that to add. It's sad, but it's the way it is. You can only add what Google recognizes as a category. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, but this is a kind of a primer on some free stuff. I think everything I've mentioned is free except for the link stuff for the 24/7. If you have any questions at all, if there's anything we could do to help you, comment down below. I'll answer any questions that I can for free. But if you wanted to schedule a free discovery call, you could do that as well. Happy to help any way that I can. The one promise that I make on my discovery calls is you will walk away with tools and techniques that you can use for absolutely no cost to improve your marketing. So even if you don't hire us, if you go and hire somebody else, at least you're going to have a solid book of knowledge, a foundation of knowledge on which you can make some good informed decisions. So I wish you well. I hope you and your family are doing well, and I hope your business prospers. Have a great day.